everybody, welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at some string processing concepts. It's kind of a follow-along tutorial. You're going to be given some starter code. Here's the starter code, and we've got a scenario. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of time to read the scenario if you haven't done so already, and we'll be referring to it as we go through the video. So if you want to pause the video for a moment and just familiarize yourself with the scenario. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be designing a computer game called BurstFirst, and in my main function here, this is really the outline of the game. We've got 4 aliens, which we're storing in a string array. We're going to do a welcome message. We're going to get some words for the aliens to eat, and we're going to send those words to the actual game function. When the game function is finished, it's going to return an integer array reference, which will probably store the scores of each of the 4 aliens. So when we get their scores, we can then send that to another function to find out which alien won the game. Okay. So let's quickly look at the welcome function. Pretty straightforward. We're just going to loop through this string array and display each of the names of the aliens. We're using an enhanced for loop. So if you're not familiar with enhanced for loops, go and do a little bit of research and see if you can figure out how they work. Okay. Our getWords function is super straightforward. You could probably design something a little bit more entertaining, but all we've got here is a string array, and we return that reference back to the main function. When we call play game, remember, it's going to return an integer array that stores the scores of the 4 aliens, but before we return anything, we need to play the game. This is the scores array, by the way. Everyone starts with 0, and here is the game loop. The game loop is controlled by calling a function. And it looks like while this function returns false, we're going to stay in the game loop. And basically, we're going to be updating the score of each of the aliens as we go through that game loop. Okay? And each time we finish a round, we then assess the scores array one more time and just see if anybody's won yet. And if that's false, we're just going to stay in the game loop. Okay, so we get a random word out of that words array, and using a for loop, we basically simulate feeding each alien that word, and it digests the word and returns a variation of the word. For example, if the word is beautiful, that function might return the word Buell, okay, according to this description. Okay, so this is basically simulating the alien digesting the word and processing it, and then we send that new word to another function which will determine if the alien gets any score for that digested word. Okay, and that function is going to return the score and add it to that alien's score. Does that kind of make sense? Okay, and after we've done that 4 times, each alien gets a chance to process that random word, and then maybe get some score updates, and then we'll check the scores again, and if this function returns false, we just keep doing that. Okay? So let's go and have a look at that win function. That win function takes that integer array, which represents the alien scores, and this is just classic computer science. It does a linear search, basically, and if any of the numbers in that array are greater than or equal to 20, it's going to set this Boolean flag to be true, and that's what it will return. Otherwise, it's returning false. Remember, if it's returning false, we're staying in that game loop. But if it returns true, then we're out of the game loop. We'll come out of the game loop, and this function will return the scores array. Okay, And the main function is going to grab that scores array and send it to the display winner function. Okay? So that's how the play game function works, and that's how the win function works. Process string hasn't been implemented yet. There are just some comments which are going to explain to us what to do. If you're confident that you can do this, you might want to pause the video right now and see if you can code these solutions to the process string. We're basically going to turn a word into another word. Okay? All right, so let's have a go. We're going to generate a random start length. For example, maybe we want to grab the first 3 characters of the word. Or maybe we want to grab the first 4 characters or 2 characters. It's just going to be random. Okay, so let's generate a random number, let's say between 1 and 4. So let's say int start length equals int math.random multiplied by 4. So that'll give us 0 to 3 plus 1. So that'll give us a random number in the range 1 to 4, and let's do the same for that end length there. Okay, let's say between 1 and 4 as well. Now we're going to use those numbers in Java's substring because we want to grab the first 3 or the first random number letters and the last random number letters in order to form the new word. Okay? Now remember, strings are immutable objects. We can't just say, hey word, I want the first bit of your string to be updated to be something like and. Okay? That would make things really simple. If we could just say, hey word, I'm just going to grab the first X characters and just replace them with the word and. We can't do that in Java because strings are immutable objects. Once we've constructed a string, you can't change it, right? So that makes things a little bit awkward. But what we're going to do instead is grab the first random number of letters from that string and just assign that to another string. So let's just call it start. So this start will be a substring of word, which is from the beginning of the string to whatever that number is, between 1 and 4. So if it's 3, we're going to grab the letters B, E, A. Okay, and we'll store that in a string. We'll do the same for these end letters. The starting point is length minus 2. So let's do that. String end equals word of substring. Now the starting point is word dot length minus this end length here, this random number. I think this is how it works. I might be wrong, but I'm not too wrong. You'll have to play with that idea and see if we got that right. Okay. But that will grab the last few letters of the string, of the word string, and we're going to put that into a new string. Notice that I'm not doing comma and then an end index number. Okay? With the substring method, you can just have the start index, just going to start there, and if I don't tell it when to stop, it's just going to naturally go to the end of the string and grab everything at the end. So that should work okay. And now we're going to use start and end to rebuild the original word. So we don't need to create a new variable. Let's just use this variable here. Word equals start concatenated with end. Okay. So we've just rebuilt the word. Okay. Using the concept that a string is an immutable object. Now we're just going to do display start end a new word in a sentence. Oh, this is awkward. System.out.println start end and new word. right? The new word, we're just using the same variable like I suggested before. It's just this thing here, word. Okay? And, we're also writing that new word to a file. So there is a function in the starter code which will write the word to a file, and we will have a look at that function, there it is, when we turn our attention to the worksheet. Okay, let's just keep going. Check word. Check word looks at the word and evaluates it. If it's got an even number of letters, the alien is going to get a point. And if the word starts with the letter B and ends with the letter T, the alien gets 5 points. Okay, so let's just complete this function. Let's say int points equals 0. Now, if this parameter word, if the length of that word is even, then we're going to update points to be 1. Okay, so that's the first bit of logic. And we also need to check if the first letter and the last letter is B and T. If word.substring 0, 1, that's the first letter, equals B, and word.substring, how do I get the last letter? It's word.length minus 1, isn't it? Word.substring, word.length minus 1 dot equals T. If that's true, then we're going to add 5 to whatever points is. So let's just do that. Points equals points plus 5. And then, of course, we're going to return, we're going to return 1, we're going to return points. Okay. And then the display winner function takes the names of the aliens and their scores and uses a classic algorithm to determine the index of the biggest number in an array of integers, which is our score sheet integer array here. So this will determine the index of the biggest number in the array, and we're going to use that index to display the winner, the alien that burst first. Okay? And purely out of curiosity, let's run the program and see if it works. Oh, okay. So there's the welcome message. And then we start. Every player got the word beautiful, and each player ended up, oh, that is amazing. 3 of the aliens created the same word. That's unusual. The next word that was generated was fantastic. We've got some bit of variety with that. Each alien digested and processed it a little bit differently, etc., etc., etc. And finally, of course, one of the aliens is going to get more than 20 points. And at this time, it was Bo who burst first. All right, so if you've managed to get all of that working, let's turn our attention to the worksheet and continue the activity.